There's a reason why I have these glasses. I want to continue. Return to Elysium. We are here in the chapter entitled Buried Roses, and it is Lucina's conversation with Cleon. Chapter 13, and I've read the first part earlier. She's talking to Cleon. So you don't expect to marry? You believe you will never fall in love? He answers, do you expect to marry? And she says, no. I said, I expect to be only Lucina. I was very gay at the feast which welcomed Cleon home to Elysium, but I think Narcissus knew why I wore the gold headdress which had belonged to my mother. The wreath of white roses was buried in the olive grove beyond the pavilion. When the sky showed grey through the window, I gave up trying to sleep. Euripides had taught me to act. Now I should have to act all the time. The role of the Lucina, who was not in love with Cleon, who need not be pitied because she had been weak. If they saw me look at him, they would know what I really felt. If I were afraid to look at him, this might be even more revealing. How could I act all the time, day after day, month after month? It was my own fault, or so Asclepius believed. If I could have blamed Apollo, it might have helped. But if Apollo really existed, he would have listened to me yesterday. I should have to work with Cleon, eat with Cleon, laugh with Cleon, and lie every time I spoke, because I could never say, I love you, which was the only truth I could give him. I put on an old tunic and took a woolen cloak from the chest. If I got out of this room, might I have peopled with thoughts of Cleon, I might find it easier to prepare to meet him again. Rain had fallen heavily during the night. The trees were still weeping, and the grass forlorn as the pillows of a girl who dare not sleep. If I swam far out into the chill autumn sea, I might feel better. I stood on the diving rock, the rock on which the child Lucina had seen Cleon as a gold statue against the blue sky of early spring. That child had also wept for a lost island, but now there was no Cleon to turn her tears to laughter. This sky was grey and sullen. It believed, as I did, that the clouds were too heavy to be driven away by a new wind. Below me the sea surged up to challenge the long endurance of the beach. It was dangerous to dive, even into deep water when the waves were so high. Was Lucina afraid of the sea as well as afraid of love? Had she become a coward because she had lost everything? Everything, the gulls screamed. You have lost everything, everything. The gulls were mocking me, and humans can be more cruel than seabirds. I pressed the palms of my hand together for the dive. The spray was cold as grief. I felt someone grasp me round the waist and pull me back. It's too rough to swim. Epicurus was out of breath, as though he had been running. I came to join you. I saw you go out of the house, but the sea is too rough for us, yet. Yes, the sea is rough, I said. I'm very sorry. I was too silly to recognize I couldn't swim against the current. He linked his arm through mine and led me back to the shelf of rock where I had thrown my clothes. The sea is never too rough if the pilot is sure of his course, he said. You need a pilot. I thought you would, so I have studied the charts of the future. I began to cry again. I had been prepared for mockery, but not for this gentle understanding. His arm around my shoulder was strong and kind. He could feel that I was sobbing, but I didn't mind. I had once seen Epicurus cry and hadn't hated me for it, so it was safe to be grateful to him. You think everything is finished for you, but it is only beginning. In Elysium you would never have been able to use your talent, Lucina. This sanctuary is too small for real people, only wide enough for philosophers and those who are content to be their echo. Am I a real person? Am I anything? He laughed. Is a gull less real than a hen, because it needs a wide sky instead of being content to scratch for food in a midden? The gulls mocked me. They said I was a coward who dared not accept the challenge of the sea. Or did they only mock at Lucina's idea of herself, the girl who was going to let life be too strong for her because she had chosen to forget her strength? Is there any other Lucina? If you have forgotten her, I shall try to make you remember. But I'm not going to talk against this wind. You're coming back to the house to put on dry clothes and then meet me in the storeroom, which can provide us with privacy and good wine. He sounded brisk and wonderfully ordinary. You won't tell the others I have been such a fool, I said. If you dare to think so, I shall tell you to stop behaving like a naughty child, and then treat you as one, with a hard slap. Dear Epicurus, I said, oh dear Epicurus. We are together in this, he sounded vehement. I told you that I should never interfere unless I was sure my destiny was woven with your own. We shall never find our real strength until we have gone out to fight against life. We are not ready to accept, to contemplate, to be old. I came here because I was tired of fighting alone. But together we shall conquer. I looked at him as though I were seeing him for the first time. The heavy eyebrows, the black, resolute hair, which grew in a straight line above the broad forehead, the grey, very direct eyes, the square, solid body. He had none of the little, lithe beauty of Cleon, but there was strength in every line of him, and now I needed strength above all things. And he was lonely, as I had always been lonely. We accept our nature, I said, and we are both fighters, so we will fight together against the world. Epicurus had brought a brazier into the storeroom. We sat in its genial warmth, wine cups in our hands, a bale of wool to lean against. We will go to Rome, he said. For a long time I've planned to leave Greece. I prefer not to profit by the stupidity of my countrymen. The Romans owe us everything of real value, which their embryonic civilization has acquired. The Romans owe us everything of real value which their embryonic civilization has acquired. The debt can be paid in part to us, to Epicurus the merchant and to Lucina the priest, philosopher, whom they will honor and fear. I don't want people to fear me, not even barbarians. You must not be squeamish, Lucina. The world fears Rome. It may give Romans a modicum of humanity if they discover they are not invincible. Do you think any intelligent Greek enjoys being patronized by the robust young neighbor who allows us to believe this lull between wars will endure long enough for our culture to make another war impossible? We are playing the role of the docile wife who is permitted to continue in her female occupations so long as she admires the husband who gives her the security of his household. The Romans are excellent soldiers. They have a lust for discipline. They abnegate their personal lives for the life of the state, but they cannot fundamentally deny their right as individuals, and this makes them vulnerable to the desire for personal possessions, especially for any object which they believe to be unique. It will also make them abjectly eager for wisdom, which can help them to endure their inner conflicts, which their methods of living imposes on the senator as much as on the slave. We shall not need to employ extortion, as Romans do when they demand taxes from a subject people. They will be eager to barter with me for goods which they will think will endow them with a culture they do not merit. They will be even more willing to allow you to show them the source of their fears. So you believe I am a tyrant? No, Lucina, I believe you would be forced to dominate any environment which is not adequate to your capacity. But Rome is not insignificant. It's not an insignificant estate. Already some speak of it as the center of the world. When do we go to Rome? Soon. There are certain matters to which I must attend before we leave. I already have a small sum of money. Asclepius has allowed me to take a just proportion of every transaction I have made in his name. I need more, and I have decided how this can be obtained. Something in the sudden hardening of the muscles of his jaw made me say, "You're not going to steal it?" "No, I'm not going to steal. I have only learned that sentimentality is a luxury not permitted to the man who has decided to live by his own standards." And this is the end of part 1. Part 2 starts with chapter 1, East Wind.